What up, Harrisonburg? You're listening to the Sam and Dan Show every Wednesday, 6 to 7, 88.7 WXJM.
.org, available to listen online or on your radio dial.
Yeah.
Next year we're looking at getting an AM station as well.
Yeah.
Really expand our coverage, but looks like it wasn't in the cards this year. But we made some great progress.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, speaking of progress, Dan, I think we got something really special for the fans tonight.
Yeah, this is really it's absolutely biblical. I know everyone's been waiting for this waiting on bated breath. They've been asking for it. They've been calling. They've been emailing. Our interns have been getting harassed nonstop, and we have it now.
Mm-hmm. The amazing engineering staff here at the studios.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to them.
Yeah, props to Bill and Otto. You guys are awesome if you're listening. We've been looking forward to this all year, and it's something that everyone's been demanding.
Yeah.
This is the let them eat cake moment of the semester, so to speak. And I just let's see if this mic will pick that up.
You guys hearing that? A jingling? You know what that is?
I'm going to turn up my gain.
There it is. Oh, I definitely heard that.
Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
That is the sound of our patented Sam and Dan phone unit 053 bypass key. And that means that tonight, if these instructions that are typed up for us actually work, that we will be able to patch live calls into the studio.
Yeah.
So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to get this thing revved up. And, Dan, would you mind handing out the number to the people while I activate the launch platform?
All right, so we got Sam working on it right now, setting things up. We would have set it up beforehand, but we were in we were in the lab working on some of the information for today. So we're going to get that for you right now. And the thing about integrated phone calls is that all semester we've been talking to some really knowledgeable folks, a lot of people who really know a lot about the subjects that we've covered, really, and information that most people aren't comfortable with knowing. And a lot of these listeners, they've given us information that we would have never thought of ourselves. Well, I take that back. We would have probably thought about it ourselves if we were given the time. But anyways, the phone number for our studio is 540-568-3425.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
JMU dial.
Yeah.
So, all right, I think I activated the system.
Hot dog.
If y'all are listening live and accidentally got cut off there, I'm not sure if that happened or not. There is a delay, so it may have just chopped up part of our show.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully you guys have been able to keep track of what is going on.
Yeah.
So we're now broadcasting in mono mode. So for those of you with stereo systems, sorry about that, but it's required for the phone calls. All right. So Dan.
Yeah.
Now,
let's actually, and we're getting a call already, folks.
Speak of the witch. All right, I'm going to try answering this. Let's see how this works out.
Well, while Sam's doing this, I'm going to go ahead and just say for everybody listening out there tonight, we're going to be talking about the Bermuda Triangle, or as we like to call it in the studio, the Bermuda Triangle, because so many people have gone missing there. And we're trying to patch a call in right now. Hello? Ooh.
Can you hear us? Hello?
Okay.
I don't know if it's, I don't think that's working. All right, so
definitely did not sound like it worked.
Yeah, let's try number 2 here. So, caller who just called, try this number instead of 540-568-6106. And we'll see if that goes through.
And Sam, you want to repeat that number one more time?
Right. So for those at home, that number is 540-568-6106.
Mm-hmm. Now, while we're waiting for this call to come through, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about the Bermuda Triangle. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this already, but the Bermuda Triangle it's a triangular area of ocean.
All right.
Wait. Okay. We're going to try this out. Looks like the call is coming in.
It looks like it's working.
Hello?
Hello? All right, we just got to remind our listeners that we're regulated by the FCC, so please keep your language to a minimum. Otherwise, we will not be able to broadcast. So thank you for your enthusiasm, though.
We know you guys are excited for the phone calls, but there are some things we just can't allow on the airwaves. Even there are some things Sam and I can't even say. I know that must surprise you
as
guys.
much as we would like to. Some stuff is just off limits for us.
Absolutely.
But, all right, so Dan.
Yeah, we're already 10 minutes in. Let's dive into the information.
All right, let's see what's out there.
Yeah.
So, as he said, Bermuda Triangle. Mm-hmm. And, something that's really important about the Bermuda Triangle is its shape. Now, see, something a lot of people don't know, a very large triangle.
Yes.
But one that's absent of right angles.
Yeah.
So, did you already tell them what islands it's comprised of?
Yeah, I did. I already went through what makes up the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay. All right. So something that's important to note is that the Bermuda Triangle is not the only one that's out there. Do you know that?
No. Well, actually, yes.
Right. Of course you knew that because we know everything.
Yeah.
So it's actually a member of what's known as the family of vile vortexes.
Mm-hmm. Or some people call them vile vortices.
Right. Whatever sinks your boat, as they say, in the Bermuda Triangle. It's a common saying there. Yeah. Because lots of boats sink there.
Yeah, planes too. They don't sink, but they disappear. Also, we don't know if the ships sink. Really, we just know that they're gone.
Right. So they could have done the opposite of sink, which is float up into the air,
Definitely
and just keep floating into space.
Something that we're going to explore a little later.
Right, become a spaceship, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So, of the vile vortices, there's 12 of them. And they're geographic areas scattered around the planet at certain critical points in the Earth's ley line system. And so, number one, we got the Bermuda Triangle, which is really well known. We've got the Algerian megaliths south of Timbuktu. So we got the Indus Valley and the city of Mohenjo-Daro, Pakistan. We got Hamakulia Volcano east of Hawaii. We've got Devil Sea, south of Japan, the South Atlantic Anomaly, the Wharton Basin, the Easter Island Megaliths, east of Rio de Janeiro. It doesn't have a name, it's just east of Rio de Janeiro. Loyalty Islands, the North Pole, and, of course, famous place of Santa not being there, the South Pole. So, North Pole is definitely all Santa's domain.
Yeah. And allow me to add, all these places are sort of linked together by subtle matter energy or ley lines, or another term, electromagnetic aberration. And this phenomenon, it sort of links all these via vortices together in a geometric pattern that was actually first explored by Plato, one of the original smarties. He wrote about in his book Anti-Gravity and the World Grid. So these things are definitely real, and they definitely have some sort of magical or perhaps supernatural qualities.
Or otherworldly.
Otherworldly as
you
well.
You could say.
Yes.
But that said, there's no definitive proof that there are not equivalencies of the Bermuda Triangle on other planets such as the Sun, the Moon, or perhaps Mars.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Until we start sailing boats there and flying planes, we can't really tell where those places are, honestly.
In fact, I would say Jupiter, very strong contender for having its own Bermuda Triangle-like areas. I mean, you ever seen the red spot?
Yeah, I have.
It's pretty big. I bet if you were trying to fly a plane in there, it'd be pretty hard.
Yeah, definitely pretty hard. Not a triangle, but still dangerous. And, of course, not all the vile vortices are triangles. But the famous ones typically are.
Right. It's just a more powerful shape. Like tripod stool, you can't knock that thing over.
Yeah.
It can only it can only trip in 3 directions, as opposed to like a regular 4-legged stool, which can move in 4 directions. So obviously, triangle is a stronger shape.
Also, if you've done any sort of engineering software where you build bridges, like Bridge Builder, triangles are very strong shapes. You can get a lot of weight across a bridge if you got a lot of triangle supporting it. So keep that in mind. Strong shape. strong magic power, strong supernatural elements.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks for laying that out for us, Dan.
Yeah, of course.
I like that.
Absolutely. Anyways, we're going to focus right now on the Bermuda Triangle. And the first time people really started realizing that there was mass disappearances within this triangle was in the 1950s. There was an article published in the Miami Herald, and the publication was just talking about a local ship that had disappeared there. But when people read about that, they were thinking, hey, I got a couple family members that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle, and then, you're talking to your neighbor. He's got a couple family members that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. Everyone starts putting the pieces together. Research starts getting done, and all of these disappearances started getting cataloged in the 1950s. And they found, up until that point, there's even more now, because the disappearance haven't stopped. Even with all the hot new tech we got, people are still disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle.
Right. It's absolutely crazy. And we're not talking, those nice Bermudan resorts where people may have, they may want to disappear there.
Yeah.
But we're talking actual 100% vanish into thin air off the face of the earth, as far as we know. Gone. Gone. Pack of cigarettes. Dad left, grabbed some milk from the store. Gone. So, all right, the time is now
6:15.
6:15. So we're gonna toss you guys a little bit of a PSA.
Yeah, just a quick one, and then we're gonna dive back into some of the disappearances within the Bermuda Triangle. And we hope you guys are listening, or we hope you guys that are listening are enjoying this, because we sure like talking about it.
All right, and here you go.
Something about being outdoors.
Getting away from everything.
My family camps. We just love it.
But there's this bug. It's killing the trees.
The emerald ash borer beetle has destroyed millions of trees.
It lives in firewood.
You move firewood, you spread the beetle.
I promise not to move firewood.
To burn it where I buy it.
I promise.
Will you promise?
Learn more. Go to stopthebeetle.info and promise you won't move firewood.
All right, folks, and with that, we're back here in the WXJM studios talking Bermuda Triangle and also some of the other vile vortices.
Right. Known as the bad boys of the geographic locations.
Yeah. When geographers are studying this sort of thing, they're wearing leather jackets, they're wearing sunglasses, they're rolling up on their hogs, cigarettes ablazing, and they're talking vile vortices. That's the sort of cool type stuff we're talking here. And one of the baddest of these vortices is the Bermuda Triangle. Within just the Bermuda Triangle, up until the 1950s, of course, when the article was first published, people started compiling all the information. There had been 75 planes and more than 100 ships that have gone missing in just the Bermuda Triangle, which is absolutely absurd. Just outrageously high numbers. And
that is a lot. That's a small airport's worth. Actually, a fairly medium to large size airport's worth of airplanes that are just MIA.
And I'm not knowledgeable about docks or anything, but 100 ships, or more than 100 ships, really. And I imagine today these numbers are much higher, probably close to double, as the amount of ships and planes going through that area is increasing. Even more are disappearing. Anyways, these disappearances, they went all the way back to when Christopher Columbus, he actually sailed through there. He didn't disappear, obviously, because he ended up in the Americas. But he did report that there were some strange lights going on in there. Perhaps alien, perhaps a Davy Jones type character sort of lights. But anyways, the first big disappearance that affected the U.S. and the Bermuda Triangle was 1800, USS Pickering. It was heading from Guadalupe to Delaware, and 90 people and the entire ship disappeared.
Oh my goodness!
Which is, and the important thing about this disappearance, the ship, no bits of wreckage from the ship were ever found, and none of the bodies of the people were ever found, which suggests perhaps they didn't sink as much as they just disappeared into thin air. And anyways, it looks like we're getting another call. We're going to see if we can get these phone lines working.
All right. Time for round 2. Let's see if this works
here we go.
out. All right. Hello, callers. Can you hear us? Did we miss it?
We might have missed it. All right.
Dang. Yeah,
Well,
I can't hear anything. Not sure.
Call
All
it again.
One more.
Hello, caller, you're on air.
Hey, sounds like we got Captain Flapjack calling in. How you doing?
What? Could you repeat that, please, Captain?
I think he says he's out on the boat in the Bermuda Triangle, Dan.
Oh, right now.
Anything crazy going on? Any, like, water spouts or perhaps sea monsters that you can report? What are you seeing out there, Captain Flapjack?
Lights, ghosts, anything.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
I see.
What an illuminating story, really.
Right. Well, thank you for calling that in. We really appreciate the work you guys are doing out there.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for calling in, Captain Flapjack. We're going to have to let you go. All right.
Take care out there.
So, thanks for calling in. Sounds like I think we might be having a few problems with the phone still.
Yeah, the clarity is a little off.
Right. Volume is extremely low. It's very hard to hear what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But,
anyways, I'm going to dive back into some
Right.
of the other notable disappearances. So I already covered 1800s, USS Pickering. 1945, December 5th, Flight 19, which was 5 TBF Avengers, were lost. And this flight included 14 airmen, just completely gone, disappeared off the radars immediately. No trace of them ever found. And immediately after they disappeared, some PBM Mariners were sent to go search for them in the area, and these, of course, are Coast Guard boats. And these were lost as well, just completely gone. And so in 2 days, they lost they lost 5 planes, and they lost 3 boats. And in a single day, so it goes to show you, if you're sent on in a rescue mission in the Bermuda Triangle, be safe. I would say don't wear any metal on your body. Again, we're going to get into some of the magnetic problems that occur in the triangle. But that's definitely a candidate for some of the weird activities that are going on. Anyways, looks like we're getting a call again.
All right, let's see what's good in the hood over here.
Yeah.
I think
we're going to see what we can do to patch this and make this a little clearer.
All right,
here we go.
On maximum volume.
Hit that bad boy. Hello? Caller, you're on air. Hello? Yes? Hi. Oh, really?
Shoot.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you, caller.
All right, thanks for calling in.
We're glad to hear that.
Okay, so apparently the phone calls are not coming through whatsoever.
Yeah. We're sorry, folks. We did not know this.
So, sorry for that awkward radio silence earlier, but we were listening to the riveting story of Captain Flapjack and his fishing tales in the Bermuda Triangle.
He reported running into a sort of gray type alien out there who just sort of appeared on his ship. Anyways, again, we apologize. We didn't know that we weren't live. We thought you guys could hear some of these riveting phone calls, but apparently you could not.
All right, well, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
Let me see if doing this dump will work. Apparently, this is the bypass that we need to do. So we're gonna skip ahead 7 seconds here.
Yep. We'll
folks.
see you guys in the future.
Yeah. So be ready.
All right.
Okay. So
here we are.
We may have skipped forward, may not. It's kind of hard to tell what's happening.
Yeah, new technology in the studio, but I think at this point, Sam, it's probably best if we forego the phone calls.
Right. I think we're gonna have to call it a day on that and do some more experimentation later.
Yeah.
But
and let's crank out some of this information.
Right. We haven't lost too much time. We still got a pretty quality production that we can be running through right now. So, Dan, take us away. From where we were previously.
So I just covered the 1945 disappearance of Flight 19 and the PBM Mariner. Also, following this, 1947, July 3rd, a B-29 Super Fortress was lost.
That's a big plane.
Yeah, that's a
Those
huge
things do
plane.
not go down easily, I can tell you what.
Absolutely not. Completely disappeared. The no wreckage from the plane was ever found. None of the people were ever found. And then more recently, just to show you guys that these sort of disappearances are still occurring today, 2017, May 15th, a MU-2B aircraft was 24,000 feet above the water when it just disappeared. It disappeared from radar. It was actually in radio contact with air traffic controllers in Miami, and the call got cut off immediately. No wreckage or people were ever found.
I've kind of had that experience with Uber myself. So, I'll be waiting, freezing outside the ice skating, late night ice skating, and I don't want to walk home because I got my ice skates on, right? So I'll call an Uber and try and get a scoop back to my house. And, sometimes my buddy Carlos or, whoever is picking me up, that the Uber will be on the way and disappear out of thin air.
Yeah.
And I'm stranded on thin ice, so to speak. So I can totally see why this aircraft would just go missing.
So Sam can definitely relate to these missing aircraft and humans because sometimes this Uber driver does not show up.
Right. It's sort of like cinematic parallels, except there's real-life occurrences that really happen for real.
So real-life parallels. Anyways, I think we're going to hop into some of the explanations real quick. Oh, I shouldn't say real quick because this is really the meat of the whole Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, right. We're just starting.
Mystery. Yeah. What?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a synonym for digging, but I'm not sure. Diving in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Talking about water.
We're about to dive in to the deepest depths of what's really at the bottom. We're touching bottom of this mystery as much as we can. So, we're treading water right now, head above water, in the 6-foot section, toes barely touching the ground. That's what we're doing with this.
Good stuff. Also, Sam and I currently sitting in the WXJM studio to get in the mood for the Bermuda Triangle thing. We actually donned full scuba gear. We're in wetsuits right now, absolutely drenched in sweat because it's hot here in the studio.
And these tanks sure are heavy out of the water.
Extremely heavy. Our masks are off, obviously, so we can talk to the people. But again, that just gets us in the mindset to hit you guys with some of this information. Anyways, I'm going to dive into the first explanation that's possible. And this is one, of course, that I've sort of covered in the past and something that definitely attracts my interest. And that, of course, is Atlantis, the lost city. So
that's a good city. I'm a big fan of Seattle myself, but Atlantis is a close second.
Yeah.
All-time favorite cities.
I'm going to take us back real quick to 1934. A famous psychic, Edgar Cayce, he predicted that the city of Atlantis will be discovered in the Bermuda area. And actually, in 1968, some interesting rock formations were detected off the coast of Bermuda, which again adds credence to what Edgar Cayce was saying. And all of this to say, the Bermuda Triangle is a perfect place for the lost city of Atlantis to be. It's at the bottom of the ocean, although the biggest problem they probably run into is so many ships and so many planes flying over the city, rumbling things up.
Right. I can see, as a potential Atlantean, you got the same scenario as being like, old country farmer out in the middle of nowhere, got plenty of land to yourself, and then suddenly they decide to build a 5-lane railway over top of your house.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
And so even though there's plenty of other places to go, all these planes and all these boats rumbling on top of your town, just coming overhead, making all sorts of noise, knocking stuff off the shelves, keeping you up at night, tooting their horns,
tooting like crazy, nothing but toots.
Right, all that sort of crazy shipping business.
Yeah.
And they're not getting a single penny out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why the Atlanteans might have a possible motivation to try and put a stop to all this ruckus and commotion that's going on over their heads as they're trying to get some good night's sleep.
Very similar problems the Atlanteans face to that of the mole men, who, of course, are not underwater but underground. And much like the Atlanteans, they have advanced technology, but they're subject to the rumblings of us above Earth, or above Earthers, as we're called. But anyways, so going back to Atlantis, as most people already know, which we covered in the Atlantis episode, Atlantis is powered by sort of energy crystals, and these energy crystals, of course, draw an immense amount of power in order to power this entire city. And so it's very possible that the energy that radiates off of these energy crystals, and this energy, of course, is called death beams.
Death beams?
Yeah.
Well,
you would think that the Atlanteans would pick, I don't know, a less terrifying word for just the electricity or the energy leaving their crystals, but they didn't. This is actually from Atlantean texts. Death rays are what they're called. Or death beams, death rays.
Wow.
I've seen both.
Interesting. Yeah, I would have gone for perhaps energy beam or something a little more tame.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think nuclear power in the U.S. has enough of a bad stigma around it, by the way, completely safe source of energy.
Really safe.
Great option. I can't imagine trying to convince someone to let you build a death beam generator next to their neighborhood.
Yeah, especially when the death beams aren't the main thing the crystals produce. The death beams are just, they just sort of radiate off of the crystal. Again, interesting choice by the Atlanteans, but they've lasted a long time. I'm sure they know what they're doing. And anyways, we're at the 6:30 mark. We're going to hit you guys with some quick promos, and we're diving back into some of these explanations.
All right, so today is 4/25, Wednesday in April. Beautiful day. And tonight we've got Justice Prophet, True Body, Down Hall at Crayola at 9:30 p.m. On 4/26 Thursday, we've got Kuna Bear, SB the Moor, Wrong Boy, Grayling Sky, and that's going to be at Buckingham Green at 9 p.m. On 4/28 Saturday, we've got Woodgrove, Horse Culture, Post 65, Slow Clover at Lon Lon Ranch at 10 p.m. Dan, you got the last one?
Last one, 4/29. We got Blush Face, we got Bees, we got Receipt, and Lilac Sun, all at Crayola at 10 p.m. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, they're definitely good options. Anyways, again, you're listening to WXJM Harrisonburg, Sam and Dan show every Wednesday, 6 to 7, and we're going to dive right back into some of these Bermuda explanations. Getting back to the Atlanteans, we covered their death rays, which are produced by their energy crystals.
Right. I'm a big fan of power crystals, and I think if we were able to get more on the surface, see, they're mostly locked deep in the ocean.
Yes, yeah.
I've done a lot of power crystal research myself. Crystal healing, crystal magic, crystal meth,
eating crystals.
That sort of guy. all those superpowered crystals out there. They're just out there, but we're not exploiting them as much as we could be. So I think the Atlanteans are really on the right track here, and it's sorry to see them, stuck underwater with all this good stuff, but just a possible avenue to approach. And speaking of avenues, Dan, you want to tell us a little bit about the Bimini Road?
The Bimini Road. Let me bring that up in the database real quick. Edgar Casey, along with the prediction of Atlantis, predicted that along with the finding of Atlantis, we'll also find the Bimini Road, which of course is the remnants of an old road which leads to Atlantis, underground, and it's lined by this sort of interesting rock formations, which is how it's identified. And when Atlantis was above water, again, I don't want to talk about Atlantis too much because I already covered that in an episode, but when Atlantis was above water, it was connected to all the other great nations, and of course it had to have roads, and the Bimini Road was the main one. It's sort of like I-95, it's the best in the biz. I-95 if you're a Nova goon, of course.
Right, and what's interesting about that, the Bimini Road and the structures they have, very similar to another one of the vile vortex positions on Easter Island. So we're all familiar with the Easter Island heads, meticulously carved megaliths of a suspiciously disappeared civilization that left without a trace. And that's something that's reflected in the Bimini structures underground. So, Dan, do you mind if I talk a bit about another possible explanation?
Yeah, please.
The very famous UFOs.
Or UFOs, as some people like to call them.
The UFA?
Yeah.
So,
MUFON.
And, when they're underwater, they're actually called USOs, underwater submerged object.
Yeah, very important distinction.
Unidentified submerged object.
Underwater submerged object.
So,
Literally anything you throw underwater comes to USO.
Right. So, as we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. We had a pretty good show about that. That's available on the Sam and Dan Show online.
Yeah.
And check out our YouTube channel. But the Greys, a certain race of aliens, doing kind of the grunt work.
Yeah.
They've got an agreement with the U.S. government that allows them to, abduct a certain amount of humans each year. So
of course.
It's been theorized that the Bermuda Triangle, along with, all those other vile vortices that have been mapped out across the globe, these are just like really convenient places for the switcheroo to take place. So it's kind of like a stop and shop for those alien aircraft looking for people to snatch up.
Absolutely.
So it's just easier, much like the UFO corridor in the Midwest, for the interdimensional craft to zoom in, grab what they need, and get out of there.
Yeah, grab a super fortress, grab an aircraft carrier, and just sort of fly off with all the people on it, of course.
And so, mass abduction, super easy. And it could also be accomplished by underwater alien bases or perhaps vessels large enough to snatch up entire ships.
Yeah.
So if you've ever seen The Abyss by James Cameron, that's an example of what the kind of things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Just massive underwater craft.
Yeah, of course. It's possible that these aliens have established bases near these vile vortices, perhaps, again, because of the sort of energy that is exchanged between them. Perhaps the aliens have the ability to harness this energy in a way that we cannot. And also, it's very likely that aliens have some sort of, dare I say, like a claw machine that can only come down and snatch up ships or planes in these vile vortices type sections, similar to a claw machine game. The claw lowers, picks up like a B-52, carries it off to space into one of the spaceships.
Right. It just makes sense. And, improving on that concept a little bit, you ever heard of the Marianas Trench?
Yes.
If there were any place on Earth where you could slide in a giant quarter to activate one of these extraterrestrial claw machines, I think that would be it.
Yeah.
So
yes, absolutely.
If we could figure out how to make a gigantic quarter to slide into the Marianas Trench, we could probably take control of our own fate using these giant claws.
Yeah, absolutely. We could grab our own people, and also to go along with the idea that these vile vortices are a great place for mass abductions. One of the other vile vortices besides the Bermuda Triangle is Easter Island, where all the monoliths are, of course. And all the people of that island mysteriously disappeared, leaving just the monoliths behind. It's very likely that perhaps aliens or some sort of other extraterrestrial being snatched them all up because they saw a group of island dwellers who were vulnerable and easy to snatch. And, of course, also the claw machine definitely could have played a big role in this. And
I think living on an island just makes you way more susceptible to getting snatched.
Easy pickings.
So
easy pickings.
If you're just ever out there in the middle of the ocean, chilling out, relaxing, maxing all cool, shooting some beach ball out on the beach, just keep an eye out for suspicious figures approaching you trying to abduct you.
Mhm.
In fact, that's just generally good advice
Yeah.
at all times.
Keep that in mind.
Just be on the lookout for people trying to abduct you
Yeah.
or things that look like people.
Trying to abduct you. Again, abduction never good.
Right. It's usually something you want to avoid.
Mhm.
So, Dan, is there any other sort of explanation that has been given for this?
Yeah.
Beyond UFOs and Atlantean meddling in our shipping?
Of course, there are many explanations for this sort of thing, and another really popular one is magnets. Of course, no one really knows how magnets work.
You know, there's a famous song about that.
Yeah.
Magnets, how do they work?
By ICP.
Yep.
Definitely an illuminating song. Asks a lot of really important questions.
Almost as valuable and educational as the ABC song, I would dare to say.
Similar, very similar tune as well. But anyways, yeah, at these vile vortice type area, there's been shown to be significant increases in magnetism, and these increases in magnetism, they can mess up a ship's navigation, their radar, their radio contact, and basically just put them in a really bad place. So some people have suggested that these magnetic spots appear naturally on Earth due to the poles, but
so-called experts.
Yeah. All of that sounds like a bunch of baloney to me. Here's what I got to say about this pure magnet theory, as I call it, which, of course, is the magnet theory without interaction with Atlanteans or aliens. If we're talking just magnets, you would imagine that these ships would get lost and they would sail around and perhaps they would hit something or sink or the planes would crash into the water. But at that point, you would find wreckage. You would find bodies. Where are the ships? Where are the planes? Where are the people?
Right, and that's a good question. Unless, for some reason, the ocean in particular spots just has extremely metal-dissolving properties to it, which is very unlikely because that would have to be a pretty consistent thing, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just not something we've run into. There's just really no explanation for that. So I think magnets could be a potential contender. I mean, it is kind of impossible to tell what a magnet is going to do next. We just don't understand
Can't trust them.
their power.
Can't trust them.
If you've ever had a magnet next to your credit card and the next day you go to buy something and suddenly you're broke, that's something that can happen. Or next to your cell phone and all your memory is wiped and your photos are gone. Magnets are very mischievous.
Yeah, they'll suck all your photos right out of your phone, and then they have all your photos. Again, you can't trust a magnet.
Right. And one of the vile vortices is actually very, very important in its relations to magnets.
Yeah.
The South Atlantic anomaly that I mentioned earlier is an area where the Earth's inner Van Allen radiation belt comes closest to the Earth's surface. So this is where the magnetic fields are the strongest because of the Earth's polarity. So, when anything's going on in the most extreme way, like perhaps coldest place or tallest mountain.
Or Animal Planet's most extreme.
Right. When anything extreme is going down, and we mean extreme with a big capital X first.
Yeah, absolutely. Like XX Tricky, if you ever played that game, the snowboarding game, we're talking extreme.
So extreme. In fact, so extreme that you could say it's got frosted tips and sweet shades. So, right, yeah, there's just no way to predict how magnets are going to interfere.
Yeah, and if you'll allow me to connect this sort of magnet theory with some of the other theories we talked about earlier, the magnet alien theory suggests that these aliens, they use magnetism as a sort of way to cut people off from contact with the land, which of course makes them easier to abduct or grab with a giant claw, because you can't call for help, you can't tell people what's going on. It's just you and the aliens at that point. And going off of this, the Atlanteans actually use, it's been shown in their text that the Atlanteans, they use magnetism as a way to counteract the immense water pressure of being at the bottom of the ocean. It's the only way to keep their cities and their vessels from being crushed by this enormous pressure. Magnets, of course, are their tool of choice for this. And as shown by their use of energy crystals, Atlanteans don't really care what sort of damage could be done to surface dwellers with their technology. So, of course, this huge amount of magnetism that they're using, it could disrupt planes and ships, causing them to crash or, again, sink. And the Atlanteans knowing, ooh, I don't want to get in trouble for this one again. I don't want people coming over here and searching. They just sort of clean up the wreckage, sort of brush it under the proverbial rug. Or it's also possible they do have a giant rug, which they brush these planes and ships under.
Right. And there's just really no way to know unless we're really getting down there. And, I mean, we've got these diving suits on, but I don't know if we can get that deep down into Bermuda. And also, it's kind of expensive to get there. And we've been facing some budget cuts recently, as you can see from...
As evidenced by the phones.
Right. So we're working on getting those lines repaired. Looks like mice chewed through these in the back.
Yeah, we're going to be grinding off the mics for a few days trying to get these boys working.
But, speaking of working, we got the weather for you. The time is now 6:45.
That transition.
I've been working on bringing up the weather report. So right now, it's a cloudy 64 degrees in Harrisonburg. It's going to be a 8 p.m. sunset, and we're going to get down to the cool mid-40s tonight and going into tomorrow morning. Thursday, we're going to have a high of 68, partly sunny with a low of 48. Friday is going to be slightly drizzly with a high of 63 and a low of 41. And this weekend, it's going to be nothing but sunshine. We're looking at mid-60s to high 50s for Saturday and Sunday with lows in the mid-30s.
All right, and that's the weather. Of course, you're listening to WXJM Harrisonburg, Sam and Dan Show every Wednesday, 6 to 7, 88.7 on your FM dial. And we're about to dive right back into the Bermuda Triangle. So we just talked about some explanations that Sam and I have personally explored. We're going to get into some explanations by experts. And I got to say, reading through some of these, they're actually just about as cool as our explanations, which, of course, is surprising because experts are usually lame and dorky.
Right, unless they're us, in which case they're cool, knowledgeable, and suave.
Yeah, super suave. And one of these effects I'm going to talk about real quickly, which I'm a big fan of, is called the hexagonal cloud air bomb theory. So above the Bermuda Triangle, there are these rare sort of clouds that form, which, again, could also point towards aliens. But I'm not going to get into that because we're not talking aliens. We're talking Bermuda Triangle. Anyways, above the Bermuda Triangle, these rare sort of clouds form. And these hexagonal clouds, they build up immense amount of pressure inside of them, all air pressure. And then
air power?
Yeah, air power. And eventually they explode, and they can throw wind straight down at 170 miles an hour. Which, of course, that's extremely dangerous for aircraft. That's extremely dangerous for ocean vessels. Easily could sink either one of those.
I can definitely see that happening. Another little-known fact, beyond, huge air explosions going on, the Bermuda Triangle is one of the few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north are actually pointing the same direction. So it's been theorized and scientifically proven that...
By us. But yeah.
It's hard to navigate when you're supposed to have two different compass readings, one to true north, one to magnetic north, and all of a sudden you only got one.
Yeah.
So it's possible that in their confusion, groups of ships or aircraft traveling together noticed that their compasses were messed up and decided they were going the wrong way, so immediately turned around and accidentally collided with each other instantly, causing their ships and craft to disappear by sinking to the bottom of the ocean. So, and it would happen so fast that they don't know what's going on because their compasses are broken.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Also, another, I guess I should say, in quotes, scientific explanation for the disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle is electric fog, also called the Hutchinson effect. And I think this one's really cool as well. So, there has been fog that's been discovered near the Bermuda Triangle and in other places, of course, via vortices. And this fog actually holds an electric charge, and it's been shown to be able to disintegrate and disintegrate and disable electronic equipment in ships, which, of course, once your instruments start malfunctioning,
Right.
you're in dire straits, and these ships sort of disappear because of the fog. Again, doesn't explain the lack of wreckage, but I'm not going to get too nitpicky with these scientists.
Right. And as we all know, I mean, as anyone who's got a smartphone knows, with, smartphone neck from looking at the Twiddlers and the fast books, things like that. If you're without your electronic device and you're out on the ocean, things probably get pretty boring. You ever heard of seasickness? It's when you're so tired of looking at the ocean that you literally rather look at anything else.
Yeah, you'd rather be sick.
Right. So if one of those electronic clouds blasted your phone out of your hand, or perhaps just vaporized the internals completely as you spoke, then I would be pretty bummed too. And you know what? I might just decide to go for a swim. I get so bored and seasick.
Or you just turn your ship to, instead of riding on the water, you point it straight down, so it just dives to the bottom of the ocean, never to be seen again.
Right. Anything can happen. Dan, something else that's a pretty interesting occurrence is actually the Sargasso Sea. And it is really out there. It's a very unique phenomenon where it's a sea without any land borders or beaches, because it's completely contained by oceanic currents. And what the deal is here is that it's got extremely heavy algae concentrations. So it's known for the Sargasso seaweed that floats to the surface in heavy sheets that can bog down vessels traveling through here. So old-time sailing ships, they don't get enough wind in this area to actually propel themselves against the seaweed, and they can get stuck in the motors and props of modern sailing ships.
Wow.
So that's something to look out for. It's kind of like the naval equivalent of black ice on the roads when you're driving in wintertime. So it's just really something you want to avoid. So if you see thick, heavy clouds of seaweed, steer clear.
All of this, just to say, really, the oceans are far more dangerous than you would imagine, even if you're on a boat. You would think that these modern boats that we have are immune to these sort of natural phenomena, but it's not even close. Nature always wins. We got exploding clouds. We got electric clouds, or fog, I should say. We got dangerous seaweed. Really, it's dangerous out there, folks. Not just in the Bermuda Triangle, but
just everywhere.
Yeah, especially in the Bermuda Triangle.
In fact, best advice is just never set foot anywhere even close to the ocean. Move to the middle of Kansas and build yourself a nice underground house so the tornadoes can't get you there either.
But be careful of the mole people. Again, they live underground. Don't dig too deep. Keep your house probably about 30 to 40 feet underground. Don't go any deeper.
Right, 30 to 40 max.
Yeah, absolutely.
And allow for proper drainage, all that. Good survival tips.
Yeah.
But
anyways, after we covered some of those scientific explanations, I'm not going to flesh out the last two that we have that are possible. Cthulhu, of course, it's been theorized that the Bermuda Triangle is a place where Cthulhu is hibernating, and perhaps these ships and planes flying over, they wake him up, they make him angry. He snags them with his tentacle-y face and brings them down to the bottom of the ocean. And also, going off of Christopher Columbus's sighting, of course, he said that he saw a sort of bright light that sort of sailed along the water like a vessel. It's also possible that the Bermuda Triangle is where Davy Jones picks up sailors, and where he typically likes to sail his vessel. Because, of course, Davy Jones, he's one of the baddest sailors to ever live. Really,
he's a pretty bad dude.
Yeah, he's bad.
You ever
to
heard
the
of
bone.
his locker? I mean, even that's where he keeps his cool, badass stuff, like the switchblades.
Yeah.
The switchblade combs.
Looks like we're getting a call. Sam, you can take that on the regular line. Anyways. Yeah, so Christopher Columbus, he saw this sort of ghostly light traveling along the ocean currents, very similar to a boat. And of course, the working hypothesis here is that Davy Jones sails these waters because they're so dangerous and so hard to sail that he truly is trying to prove himself to be the greatest sailor. And of course, with all the disappearances that occur here, perhaps he is the cause of them. But again, let me say that planes, or Davy Jones cannot affect planes at all, so that doesn't really explain the planes disappearing. But he could be there to gather the lost souls of people in the Bermuda Triangle.
Right. It really just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So thanks for calling in, listeners. Just a reminder, the phone system, although it was unfortunately promised, is non-functioning right now.
Yeah.
So, but thanks for your interest in the show. All right. So I think have we pretty much wrapped up the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, I say we've hit the Bermuda Triangle pretty good. There's sort of one last topic I really want to hit up, not related to, well, sort of related to the Bermuda Triangle, and that is the Dragon Triangle.
Oh boy,
which we can cover real quick. Also, it's a close geographic cousin to the Bermuda Triangle, very similar in size. Of course, not in the same area, but one of the vial vortices. So
right, and the Devil's Triangle is interesting because it's actually, if you look at the globe, as scholars and gentlemen, Dan and I both have globes on our office desks in our libraries at home,
made entirely of marble.
Right. So you just spin your globe around. If you put one finger on the Bermuda Triangle and draw a line straight through the entire globe, and your finger comes out on the other side, place your finger on the other side, dig straight to China, so to speak, and you will actually be in the Devil's Triangle, or the Dragon's Triangle. Sorry, I apologize. Devil's Triangle is the Bermuda Triangle. It's a nickname. Dragon's Triangle is separate, and that's actually off the coast of Japan. So, like I just said, 1-to-1 flip-flop mirror image on the other side of the planet of the Bermuda Triangle, which I think is a pretty heavy coincidence. And, speaking of globes and, going from one end to the other, I think something that's important to note here is that there's actually no accurate way to represent Earth on a completely flat map, Dan. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
Right. Of course you did. Because, I feel like that's something most people know, but some people don't. But either way, there's several different projections that emphasize different parts of the globe, and it's just kind of crazy. If you look at the different projections, you can see how large certain continents are in relation to other. For example, North America is nowhere close as large as Africa is. Africa's absolutely ginormous, but looking on most maps, you can't really tell that. So that's just something, for the listeners out there who are willing to look into different projections, look up map projections of Earth, and check out some cool stuff. Learn something new if you want to. So, all right. so the only way to really get a real sense of the globe is a digital projection. So if you can have some sort of like virtual reality or mapped version that you can look at in real 3D space, that's how you can check out the Earth. All right. So anyways, Dragons...
Thank you for the geography lesson.
Right. I just think that's something cool.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Right. So Dragon's Triangle, polar opposite, literally, like, North Pole, South Pole. It's the polar opposite, and extremely similar in its paranormal disturbances.
Yeah.
So it's just totally wild that a lot of people haven't heard about this one. A lot of our listeners, I'm sure, are taking luxurious vacations trying to avoid the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
But they're not aware of the Dragon's Triangle. You might think, because it's on the complete opposite side of the most dangerous part of the ocean, it must be the safest place.
Yeah, you would think, but you would be wrong, because it's just as dangerous as the Bermuda Triangle. The Dragon Triangle, it's been known for years to have many similar occurrences to the Bermuda Triangle, and perhaps most notably, it's been theorized that the Dragon Triangle was the area where Amelia Earhart disappeared.
Right. So
very interesting.
Those of you who don't know Amelia Earhart, she's the woman who sewed the first American flag and then got lost circumnavigating the globe on a solo airplane flight. So, disappeared without a trace. There's a lot you can dig into there as well. We're not going to cover that right now.
Yeah.
But famous figure, was in radio contact.
Powerful woman. Very powerful woman.
Yep. Very publicized event and just disappeared.
Yeah.
No
trace.
Never been found.
Yeah.
So this the Devil's sorry, I apologize. The Dragon's Triangle is known as the Mano Umi in Japanese, also called the Sea of the Devil. So that's where my confusion is coming from.
Absolutely.
I apologize. But it's an area where seagoing vessels and aircraft mysteriously disappear. And probably the most publicized event where things went missing over in the Dragon's Triangle is actually way before anything in Bermuda was going on.
Yeah.
So back when people over in Bermuda were on their wooden canoes collecting coconuts, we've got whatever they do there. Because, I mean, they're on vacation all the time, let's be real. You ever seen that place?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
nothing but fun.
It's like a desktop screensaver around there. So why would you ever work?
Yeah.
So I would collect coconuts for a living. That sounds chill.
Who would?
Right. Anyway, so we're going way back. We're talking ancient history here. Kublai Khan, famous relative of Genghis Khan, massive army. This guy had just conquered most of the Asian mainland, and he decided, why stop here? He came to the shore. He's like, I heard Japan's out there causing trouble, so I'm just going to send my guys over. So he got together the largest fleet that had ever been assembled.
Some of the baddest schoons in history, really.
The biggest boats, the most aggressive oarsmen, some really rambunctious horses and archers. And, they all loaded up, convoyed up, getting ready to ship out. And 40,000 sailors and soldiers mysteriously disappeared by a sudden freak typhoon. Massive, huge, gigantic storm absolutely decimated his army. This resulted in Japan never being attempted to be captured by the Khans because they thought it had some sort of divine protection. And in fact, cool historical tidbit, that's actually the origin of the kamikaze legend, which in Japanese means divine wind. So the original kamikaze, most people are familiar with them from World War II, but that's where kamikaze comes from.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Right.
Again, history and geography. You listen to the Sam and Dan show, you get both. You get a little bit of everything. And, of course, you listen to the Sam and Dan show, where the time is now 7 p.m., 88.7 Wixjam.
WXJ of Harrisburg, 88.7. We got Wixjam.org, and we also have Sam and Dan Show on YouTube. And for those of you who are fans of the show, you know that 7 o'clock is kind of the usual time we'll be clocking out, not because we want to, but because we have to.
Yeah, we're literally forced out of here every time.
Right, so kicking and screaming, but it looks like this week we've actually been granted very graciously a little extension.
Yeah.
So I think this should make up for our fumbling with the phone calls at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we're going to go until 7:15, maybe even later. Let's just see.
We'll see where the night goes.
This is going to be our longest episode ever.
Well, for now.
For now.
We're looking into next week. We're going to be broadcasting during finals week. And we're perhaps looking into the idea of hitting up a cool 2-hour
season finale.
Which really should blow a lot of minds. More on that a little later. But anyways, let's get back into this Dragon Triangle / the Sea of the Devil.
So make sure your radios have those extra batteries by the side because it's going to be a long one next week.
Yeah.
So, so kamikaze, famous for their involvement in World War II. But speaking of World War II, at least 9 Japanese naval vessels were lost in the Dragon's Triangle between 1940 and 1950. So that's a pretty serious hit. That's over 700 crew members MIA because of bad weather over in this little sketchy section of the ocean. So, historically speaking, this is a pretty significant place. This has had a very large effect on world history, unlike the Bermuda Triangle. Not to discredit the Bermuda Triangle at all due respect.
Yeah.
Credit where credit is
shout
due.
Shout out,
Old
mad
BT.
shout outs. But I got to say, the Devil's Triangle was the original. Of course, we gave a lot of information on the Bermuda Triangle because that's what most people are familiar with. But, credit where credit is due to the OG, the Devil's Triangle.
Dragon's Triangle.
Sea of
the Devil.
Sea.
Yeah. All right. So, 9 vessels, fully operational military weapons, just completely gone out of there. And no one knows what's up. So the nation of Japan, after the war, they actually sent a research vessel, the Kaiomaru No. 5, And it's not Mambo number 5, but it's close.
Yeah, it's not as cool, not as good of a song. Truly a classic, Mambo number 5. But
right. I wish we had that on the database. We could play that for you guys.
We'll look into that, folks. We'll look into that.
We'll see if we can get that on air. But anyway, so the Cayumero number 5 was sent to explain this massive disappearance of boats and the guys on the boats or women on the boats. I'm sure there maybe even the pets on the boat.
Yeah.
We don't know what they were looking
All
for exactly.
All sorts of creatures on that boat.
Right. A veritable Noah's Ark of things that could have been on there.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been anything.
Absolutely.
But so this research vessel, it's got 35 well-trained scientists, work hard, got their college degrees. They know what they're doing. Expert sailors, they get out there, they can't find anything.
Wow.
And the most interesting fact is that the Cayumero number 5 never made it back either. So they reported, all clear. You couldn't find any wreckage. We're going to turn around.
Yeah.
And suddenly, despite all odds, this is very astronomically improbable, but out of nowhere, underwater volcanic explosion destroyed the ship completely and sunk to the bottom. So that's just kind of like an absolute freak accident.
Yeah.
Because,
or is it an accident? We'll explore that a little later. But yeah, go on.
Right. How do we know? There's just, what are we going to do? Send another research vessel out there to get blown up by a volcano?
To get blasted? Yeah, I don't think so. Allow me to say, it's possible that in the Devil's Triangle, or Dragon's Triangle, I'm never going to get that down, very similar to the Bermuda Triangle, that aliens use this area. Perhaps, maybe they don't do a lot of abducting. It seems like ships get destroyed in that area as opposed to disappearing. Of course, there are some disappearances as well, but perhaps under the ocean here is some sort of alien base where experimentation takes place. Of course, the Bermuda Triangle and the Dragon's Triangle on complete opposite sides of the globe, which makes them magnetic opposites, which, of course, as most people know, makes instantaneous teleportation much easier because you just cover yourself in magnets and you're attracted to the other magnetic pole, of course. Anyways, it's very possible that aliens may take subjects here for experimentation, and when all these sort of ships are getting near their base, they sort of just destroy them. Perhaps they don't have space for all these new subjects, and so like with the Armada of Genghis Khan or this research vessel, they create some sort of natural, I put natural in quotes, event that sort of wipes them all out and keeps the base safe.
Right. And to me, that just makes sense. I mean, it's just good business, really.
Yeah.
So,
it's just smart, really.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your theories on that.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit out of material right now. I mean, there's so much to talk about, but it's hard getting the database seems to be acting up a little bit. I've been trying to punch in these numbers and get these film reels out of this thing, and they won't budge. But I think we can talk a little bit about the vial vortices a little bit more.
Why not?
All right.
One last thing to add, actually, about the Devil's Triangle. Back in
Dragon's
Triangle. Back in 1000 BCE, there were tales of dragons that lived off the coast of Japan in that area. Of course, that's where it got its name. It's possible that these dragons still live there to this day, of course, similar to a Nessie or a Champ-type creature, and they have some sort of control over natural elements such as tsunamis or volcanic eruptions, and they just sort of want to live in peace in that area, and these ships sort of disrupt their peace, and so, of course, they destroy them. And allow me to say, it's possible that these dragons have different sort of elemental powers. If there's a lava dragon under there waiting to blast people with some lava, there's a water dragon, which would make sense that he's in the water. But
that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, and he controls tsunamis. Again, this is just speculation, but it's definitely a possibility.
Right. And, it's actually, all right, so I was able to get the tape out of the machine here.
Hot dog.
So I'm reading this off a little bit. But, yeah, so the dragons in the Dragon's Triangle that give it its name, allegedly, they're also very famous in Chinese culture, since, this is kind of in between the area of China and Japan.
Yeah.
So both these cultures independently throughout thousands of years, with very little contact with one another, independently came to the decision that there were dragons. Here be dragons,
Here be dragons, yeah.
around these parts.
Mm-hmm.
There's some dragons around here. So that's
Yeah.
what they said.
That sounds like them.
So
Classic samurai talk,
right. So I just think that's kind of crazy because, well, crazy in that it's so true.
Yeah.
Because
Crazy reasonable.
Right. Crazily believable. Because how else would that work out? It just doesn't make any sense. Obviously, there's got to be something, a little something going on.
Yeah.
Now, as we said before, there's been attempts by the so-called experts.
Yeah. Experts.
Right.
Yeah.
Who are trying to solve this mystery of the Dragon's Triangle.
Yeah.
And what's good with all the dragons, where the dragon's at.
Yeah. Of
Well,
course.
all right. So first of all, I'm just going to come out and say this. The dragons are probably asleep by now. They've had a busy week.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
dragons live so long that you spend a couple thousand years terrorizing some ships and you go down for like a quick nap.
You blast some Huns and then you take a quick nap. And then you wake up, you blast a research vessel, and then, of course, you snag another nap. It just makes sense.
Right. So by this point, they're probably, catching up on some Z's.
Yeah.
But scholars like Ivan Sanderson have suggested that the reason the Dragon's Triangle is so dangerous and nefarious and notorious and infamous and cold and calculating is that there are hot and cold currents crossing the vile vortices, which leads to the disappearance of vessels in the Devil's Sea. And according to him, these currents result in electromagnetic disturbances that trap ships passing by
Interesting.
in their clutches. Looks like we're getting a call. I'm going to answer this real quick.
Yeah, let's
Dan.
Sam hit that real quick.
Hey, thanks for calling the Sam and Dan
Yeah.
show.
So as Sam was saying, going back to this magnetism.
Hey, our caller's got a question about dragons real quick.
Oh, please, yeah. Very knowledgeable about dragons. I've done a lot of research. I watched the Dragon special on Discovery, very similar to the Mermaid special they had, but I got to say the Dragon one was done better. And of course, as we speak, I'm yelling or I'm making hand motions at some of the interns.
All right, I'll mention
to start bringing me some of the information. So let's see if I can answer this. What do we got?
All right, so our caller wants to know, and there's actually a really great point that's been brought up.
Yeah.
What is the relationship between these dragons from the Dragon's Triangle and your classic European folklore dragons and wyverns and worms and other dragonoids?
Yes, yes.
And also the connection to the Icelandic monsters that we've talked about before that are somewhat dragon-like.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Thanks for calling that in. We're glad you love the show, and we love our fans, and we are very, very happy to have this extended time slot right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
let's get into that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about some dragon stuff. So I'm going to say right off the bat, there's a big distinction between European dragons and these sort of Asian type dragons.
Right.
Of course, Asian dragons typically longer creatures, giant, big mustaches, typically wiser than the European dragon. Which, Europeans they were really big on livestock, and of course the dragons, they took advantage of this and they ate to their heart's content, and they grew large and dare I say lazy. And so they sort of settled in caves, amassing huge amounts of treasure from people who would come by and be like, drop off some treasure to appease the dragon as to not have their city burnt to the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we might actually have to get off air now. But that's a good connection. So, Asian dragons, really long and skinny, generally more friendly creatures. They they would protect ancestors.
Yeah.
They're a big part of the ancestral history over in those parts. And they're a lot kinder and, more interested in helping out the common man. While European dragons are just fat, greedy, and lazy and just are interested in looking out for themselves.
Absolutely.
And stealing.
Absolutely. I think that's a fair conclusion to draw.
Right. So thanks for calling that in. Hopefully we answered your questions there. And it's been a great week.
Yeah, it's been a good show. We're glad you guys all listened in. Of course, this is the Sam and Dan Show, 88.7 WXJM Harrisonburg. Thanks for listening. Signing off.
Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
And up next is the Brazy Bunch
with
their special show for this week. All right, have a good one, everybody.
Tune in.